Hello and welcome back to another episode of Let Loose with Moose. Today I have Toom with me. Hey man, how you doing?
Hello, Moose. Thank you for having me on board, mate. My first podcast
Man, it's my
ever, I
honor
think.
ever. First podcast ever. Nice.
I think so, yeah. Gonna have to dump my whole life story onto you in this episode, I reckon.
Yeah, I would love to hear it. And since you mentioned it, right, let's hear your crypto origin story. Like, how did you get into crypto? And of course, if you're open to share a little bit of your background as well.
Yeah, sure, man. Well, I'm not gonna tell the story any other way than how it actually happened. Actually, what happened was my boss came up to me one day and he said, "No one wants to work with this guy. Like, can you?" And I was good friends with my boss, and he said, "Do you mind just going and working with him?" I said, "Yeah, no worries." I was like, "Put me with him," because we worked 4 weeks away at a time. So you wanted to be with your friends to make it a little bit easier. And I called him Skinny Bum Bennett's. So Skinny Bum Bennett's.
Interesting
It
name.
was it was a very very yeah. He had a body like a toothpick, and he was a strange fella, but he was very very smart. And we got chatting about what we were going to do with our money and so on, and savings and stuff. And that's when he first told me about Bitcoin back in, I think it was like 2016. He was telling me about it, and I was like, when someone tells you something new and you're kind of like, yeah, all right, whatever. And he showed me how to track it and so on. And yeah, anyway, he got me into it. He was like he was going ham, talking about it every day. I remember him talking about projects like Lisk, Ethereum, or he was like, this guy, he got me into it back in 2016. I actually honestly have not seen or heard from him for ages. I think the last time I heard from him, he was like breeding pigeons in Korea or some shit. Like he was a loose unit. And yeah, then my journey started from there. Bought some BTC, got rugged heaps of times, like things similar to like BitConnect. It wasn't BitConnect, but there was back then, like it's hard to describe. There was so many, like Ponzi's and shit like that. Yeah, well, back then it was just like it was insane, man. Like you couldn't find videos. Well, you couldn't really find that many videos or information. It was mostly like threads or forums, to figure out how to send shit, where it would go, and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, man, I just sort of became a little bit addicted to it. I started shilling it a lot to like my IRL friends, and
Don't we
ended
all
up
do that?
making. Yeah, it was like, and like obviously no one cared. I had a few close friends that did, and they've become very good friends of mine now. But we started a group, and I was like sort of educating people in there, I guess, and like a couple. It's actually interesting, man. There's probably like, I don't know, maybe about 80 people in there, 80, 90 people. And I think like two or three have like gone on to be like very, very successful in crypto. So there's some stats for you in terms of how many people actually, make
Make
it,
it.
I guess. Yeah. I went away for a little bit, came back in the BSC when BSC kicked off. One of my good friends from that group called me up and he's like, tell me about Pancake Swap. And he's like, he goes, I'm staking like cake and I'm getting cake. And I was like, bro, that sounds like a scam, cause he sort of looked up to me as a mentor, but I hadn't been keeping up with DeFi. I didn't know anything about it, and, yeah, then like I looked into it, deposited some funds, put it in there, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on? Like what is this?"
Man,
Um,
I remember that. Like, it
to pay,
sounded so weird, right? Like, it was all the food tokens that time. Like, what is going
yeah,
on?
I
And
could
I
have
was
just
just starting out in that space. So I was so confused back then. But yeah, please go ahead.
with Pancake Swap and stuff.
Yeah,
Well, we saw Bake. It was Bake, wasn't it? That was like the other one, the NFT one
I'm
on
not sure,
BSC.
man. There was like
Yeah,
cake, bunny, and all.
Bake. Yeah, there was this one called Bake, and we literally could have just bought that and just held it, and we probably would have been able to retire back then, But we cheated it, and then we're just like chasing shitters all the way around, and didn't really realize what we were in, and that they were like, the first movers of that time. So there's lots of regrets there, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of like where it all started, man. We built heaps of capital back then on BSC shitters. I think our big one was like Golden Goose. It was called Golden Goose Egg. It was like the first like true Ponzi that I remember. They had these like this really crazy Ponzonomics, man, like with these GG eggs. And yeah, that's where we built like a lot of our capital back then. And ever since then, like it only takes one good win, man. Once you got the capital and you know what you're doing, it's just you just keep growing from there, and it's stress free.
Nice, nice. So actually, you mentioned that you're an electrician right at the start. Are you still working in like doing crypto and
I
your job, or like are you full-time crypto now?
I worked. It's funny, man, because a lot of people I worked all or most of last year, like probably like 60-70% of last year. And like people used to say to me, like, why are you still working to him? And I'm like, it was weird because when I worked and someone was like stealing my time away from me, the downtime that I had, I was more productive with like away over there. So it's a bit of a different situation, I guess. Like because I work like on a roster, it'd be like 3 weeks away, 1 week at home type thing. In that 3 weeks away, I would get like more done in that 3 weeks than I would at home in 1 week, if you know what I mean. And it was nice to always have an income because I think when you go full time, the thing that people don't think about is that you're relying on that income, right? So you start making different decisions because your hands are kind of tied. You're like, you can't take as many risks and be as relentless as you want to be with your decisions because you're like, oh, this is my income, or, I've only got X amount of money here. If you have capital coming in, like if you're in a good job where you can manage both, I don't think you should just go, no, I'm going full time. So I've always had a really sensible approach to being full time, but also like, you know what I mean? Like right now it's a bull run, so I won't work. But
Oh,
during the bear market,
so you get to choose when you want to take on the jobs, or
I think so. Yeah, I do because, like I said, like if I can earn an income but also still study like crypto or invest. In reality, man, you don't really if you're doing it properly, you don't need to sit in front of the screen for fucking 24 hours a day. You know what I mean? If you're doing it properly and you've like streamlined your research, you streamline your alpha, streamlined your network, then you should only be there for like 4 hours of the day max, and the rest you should be out doing things that you enjoy doing, or other things that you're working on. That's my opinion anyway.
mm-hmm. You like click the buy button and then wait for it to go out and do other stuff in the meantime.
Yeah, like, and if you got like, obviously if you got I actually don't mind my job. I enjoy it. I always try to find the best. I think this is a really important thing, is like trying to find the best or make the most out of every situation. Like for me, I always used to find ways to make it work. And it was always nice to network with people in my field of work because most like guys in trade situations are investors, I guess, because they've got money. So you meet a lot of interesting people, and I've said it a couple of times before, but I actually learn the best when I'm teaching other people. So that's mostly why I create content.
Yeah, good point, good point. And of course, you've been posting on Twitter quite frequently these days, right? Like posting on a lot of gems, certain sectors or narratives, right? But before we get into that, right, you like to share certain gems, right? And you like to give hints and make people guess what they are. So my question now is, how should we find these gems, right? Like, bring us through your process for scanning for such tickers, right, or these projects, and what makes you think that they qualify to go be in your portfolio?
I think a part of this has just been adapting to the growth of the account. Before, like you could just say whatever and it didn't matter. Now things start to hold weight, and people are relying on you in certain ways and stuff like that. So you have to be a little bit more cryptic. But in saying that, man, like I think there's a huge gap in the market now to teach people how to research. Like, to be honest, I don't think it's actually that hard, but sometimes people just need that sort of light bulb moment where, just fucking type it in. Just go to the search engine, type it in, go to Google, type it in, go to YouTube, like people have like lost their basic instinct to actually figure out how to, if you got a question, mostly the answers will be online in the internet, and check Reddit, check X, type it into the search bar and it will come up. It's pretty simple, really. I find it quite strange when people say, I can't find this information, and you literally type it in and bang, comes up. So I don't know. I think a big thing though as well is like a lot of content creators, or maybe like even someone like yourself, you've been around for like 4 years now, is that we kind of forget that there's new people coming in. And the whole thing's about perspective as well. Like I always have to take a step back and realize, not everybody's been through what I've been through, and not everybody's been through what you've been through. And we just assume that everybody should know, or, you know what I mean? So I think education is really important, man. And you doing these podcasts is a great way for people to learn. Like I was even listening to a couple just before, and I was like learning so much from some of
Man,
those guys that
thanks.
you had on. Yeah, it was. I'm gonna have to go through the whole thing and listen to all of it, except for Hoeings. I'm not gonna listen to Hoeings.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's it, man. I think just literally just type it in, and if you've built up a network of like degenerates, they'll usually know straight away, man. Like that's the thing that I've realized in the last couple of like months, that the smaller accounts, like I heard a guy, I was listening to the podcast that you were talking about before, the guy that was on before me, I think it was Coin Guru.
Yep.
He was talking about how like guys who buy shitters for like they chuck like $20 in, they're gonna go shill that coin. They're gonna go shill it to the heavens. You know what I mean? Because they need
Mm-hmm.
that $20 to go to $200. And that's the way I sort of see it with like the real small accounts. They're like the real alpha hunters. They get deep into the trenches. And I think everyone is like looking to these bigger accounts for alpha, but they don't realize that it's actually the little guys around them that have the best alpha. I've honestly, some of the, as your account gets bigger, a lot of guys do just go, "Hey, Toom, have you seen this?" And like I click on their profile and they got like 29 followers and they don't even have a profile picture. And I look at it and I'm like, fuck, I'm like, this is good, man. Like, where did this guy even find this? And I think, when you say like, oh, build your network and then you can get alpha and get it before everyone else, is like, it's really not that hard. Like those guys are like happy to talk to you. They're happy to show you how they research. Like networking is so important, man. So important. I've highlighted it so many times.
Yep, and I want to get into the networking later on. But before that, right, you mentioned like just type it in. So maybe the question would then be, what should people type in the first place, right? Maybe could you give an example with, let's say, the AI narrative that you've been posting a lot about?
Yeah, well, let's say today, like I was talking about, like I mentioned something about a real world asset. I was referring to the Plume network because it's kind of like it's like a hub for all RWAs to like come and build on, similar to like Peak and Deepin. And you could literally, like, I guess in that sense, you could type in like, I would just, if someone says something cryptic, like in the past, people have said cryptic stuff, and I've looked at it and I've gone like, okay, like it's a layer, they've said it's a layer one. So I'll just type in layer one, real world asset or RWA, and start going through the comments on, you really need to know a big thing. I'm actually doing a thread on this now, actually.
Nice.
You need to know how to use X. You know what I mean? Do you know when like people, I don't know, have you ever bought something, bro, and you like just get the instruction manual and just throw it in the bin, and then you just like press the power button on and you just start using it, but you don't actually know how to use it. You know what I mean? That's what X is like. It's got so many functions. It's got so many little buttons that are super helpful in how to actually streamline your experience. If you set it up right from the beginning, it can actually change your whole paradigm of like researching and so on. So I think that's the key. Before you're even searching for anything, I think you need to have your X set up properly. And that's like, and then, having your lists. Do you have lists set up?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and you would know firsthand that changes like everything as soon as you start doing stuff like that. And then just little things, man, like you even using like replies. Like, do you ever check the replies on like some accounts? Like, the little replies tab?
Yeah, check the replies, check the likes.
So much alpha in replies and likes, man. So much reply. Especially if you find like someone who's really onto it and it's like a bit of a smaller alpha account, you can see a lot. So yeah, that's how like I would start without giving too much away right now. That's the sort of things that I would look at. And again, it comes back to learning how to fish, man. Like people go like, "Oh, how do I do that?" So how do I set up my X? Bro, go to YouTube, type it in. How to set up, how to, 10 hidden tricks about X you didn't know. You know what I mean? That's literally, it's that easy. But I think, like I said, some people just need to be pushed in the right direction a little bit.
Yeah, and I think as a follow-up then, right, let's say we search in the Twitter search bar and we come across Plume Network, for example, and then
Mm.
we click into it. So then what's next? How do you kind of go through, what are the things that you look at when you come
Yeah,
across this
so
Plume Network, for example?
So first thing I'll do is, well, I'm looking at the page right now. So first thing I'll do is I'll literally probably check the website first, and then I'll join all the socials if I'm interested. That's probably the last thing I do. but I'll check the website. I'll see who they're following, because generally like those pages only follow like 50 to 100 people, and you can usually start to see some pretty interesting things there. And then from there, you check if there's any VC backing or where their funding came from and all that sort of stuff, and obviously what the project does, partnerships and so on. And you just start to look for these bullish, cases that you can confirm, and then you'll start to check tokenomics and stuff like that. And if you're happy, then you'll probably join the Telegram, and any questions that you have, just start asking them, or you can use the search function in Telegram to see if someone's already asked it. I see so many people that come in and they just like start asking questions and it's like already been answered 100 times. So yeah, usually I'll check the search in Telegram or Discord or whatever, and try and answer my questions about tokenomics or market cap. But it's pretty straightforward, man. Like, I think the big thing is, man, I was explaining this to someone the other day. I caught up with a good friend of mine and he was like, how do you research this? How do you? And I'm like, don't expect to find your fucking answer in the first 2 minutes. That's the biggest problem that we have these days, is that people, they just want the answer straight away. And it's like, you got to dig. Like, it might take you 2 days, it might take you 3 days, but you got to dig, and it's going to take time, and you have to accept that. Now, I think that's the biggest problem, is that people think they're going to find the answer. And if they don't find it in the first 30 minutes or whatever, then they just give up. And you get better with time, obviously, but I think that's the grind part. Like, just be prepared to sit down and go, all right, I'm researching today. And you sit down and you close all your windows, close all your trading charts. So like I said to you before about streamlining, because you can get distracted, and before you know it, you've done nothing. So if I like sit down and I say I'm going to research today, or I'm going to research for the next 2 hours, I'll just close everything, and I'll like have X, maybe Telegram and some websites, but I won't look at charts. I won't open socials, because like I said, you just waste time, and then before you know it, it's been 5 hours and you've done nothing. So yeah, that's a big thing, is like getting set up, man. I always like try to teach people to get their foundation set up and, really attack. Yeah, I don't know. Just like know what you're doing, realize what you're doing, and try to like utilize your time well, because especially in these times, man, because it's insane at the moment. Everything changes every 3 hours,
Yep. All right then. I think actually I should have asked this next question first, right? So I know you did like a 2024 kind of what sectors or narratives you're looking at. So could you list them out for me, like which sectors and narratives that you're bullish on, and like why specifically this few or like this list?
Well, I think the obvious one is going to be AI, isn't it? I mean, we've probably both seen the last couple of days. It's just been going absolutely parabolic. So I think you'd be just an absolute fool to be stubborn or, ignore that. I'd like to think real world assets, has a role to play this year, but I think it might be a little bit further off than what I thought. Definitely real estate is like so far off. I wouldn't even bother investing in any RWA real estate. That's, to me, in my opinion, that's just like, could be, I don't know, end of 2025. But tokenization of like, anything to do with finance and RWAs, I think could happen this year. But yeah, DPIN is a massive one because it's already confirmed. DeFi, I think, will. I've noticed heaps of money being put into CeFi and DeFi, so I think that'll be big. And then I've mentioned it a couple of times already, but how profitable it'll be. But definitely the ZK narrative of like privacy and stuff like that, I'm watching very closely, because pretty much all the biggest projects with the biggest funding that are coming out are all ZK focused. So, and it makes sense, because to me that's like the next thing that we need as a collective in blockchain to go to the next level. If we want all the normies and outsiders and corporations, institutions to start using it, they're going to need privacy features and utilities. So they're probably the ones I'm watching the most, man. What else have we got? No, I think that's it, man. I think AI is just going to be it's just going to go crazy, man. Anything with AI, GPUs, cloud storage, massive, anything, and that's kind of falls under DPIN as well. But I think, yeah, they're the two to watch for sure, man. They're going to make people a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, AI obviously has had a very good run recently, especially with the Nvidia earnings call, right? And I think DeepIn as well. We've seen Filecoin and Arweave I think done pretty well. And yeah, I think we're kind of aligned on the things that you mentioned. I agree with most, if not all of them. On ZK's side, right, I think my thoughts are, have you seen the article written by Vicky Thoughts on the Matic Polygon, the
No.
ZK EVM? So he wrote an article on saying like why he thinks that Polygon is probably going to move soon. And part of it is because of the ZK EVM, like how they are prepared for it. And Taiki also released an article under HFA research on the same topic. So I think it's something that I'm starting to watch and look into, right? I mean, part of it is like saying like Matic is already down bad, like it can't possibly go lower. Like the risk reward is there, and they are how prepared they are on their ZK EVM end. So yeah, suggest everyone to go take a read, and yeah, I think it's an interesting read. So yeah, I think that's on my end.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
someone shared an article with me the other day saying about like how the EU was looking at enforcing some sort of law on public blockchains. It was a legit article. I didn't really get a chance to read it, but it was along the lines of like basically public blockchains in the EU will be illegal type thing. So I wouldn't be surprised to see stuff like that starting to come through. It's definitely a narrative to watch. I think if you're going to be involved in crypto, then you need to pay attention to it. And like I said, like I didn't realize myself, man, until I did like a massive deep dive on VC funding. And like I went through every venture capital firm and every single
Wow.
project it was ZK, man. Like they were pouring fucking thousands, hundreds of thousands into ZK, like anything infrastructure, anything privacy related, like yeah, like all the oh man, it honestly shocked me, and I sort of thought, well, they obviously know something. Like the developers know something. They know that this is what's required, and I mean it makes sense. Does it make sense to you? I'm sure it does.
um on the blockchain, like the public versus private blockchain side
Mm,
of things
mm,
and the government, in fact I just had this conversation with a friend recently. It might be a bit hard to kind of I would say guess whether the existing blockchains that we all know today, right, like Ethereum, Polygon, Solana, whatever that we are using right now, will that be used by governments, right? Or do you think it's more likely that governments may come up with their own private blockchain, right? Because they would unlikely want to give up the control and power that they have, right? Like why would I put everything onto the transparent blockchain for everyone to see, right?
of course, yeah, yeah. Well,
So
that's the interesting part about where we're going. Like
with the ZK,
yeah, it's hard to know what's going to happen, and I'm sure that like they're obviously like banks or institutions or whatever would be spending thousands or millions probably on and research or like research and development in this technology because like I was saying before, they want to use the tech. Of course, they want to use the tech. Like it breaks down all the barriers and streamlines all the processes for them, but the information can't be public. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, man. I'm pretty excited to watch that one unfold, and I'm sure, like even with blockchain now, man, I don't think we're not even close to seeing the best of it. You know,
yep.
like if we look at stuff like CAS and Tau now, and people are like, oh, it's like crazy, it's going to be, and I'm like, I still think there might be something even better that will come out than both of them soon. I think the innovation's just going parabolic, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not so sure on the end whether we would go so far as to having governments adopt this. But if you look at it as a narrative, I do think it has a good probability of catching on sometime this year or next year.
It'll be interesting to see what happens, man. But I think I actually learned a lot by following, and I've been like a bit of an advocate of Dusk, but I learned so much by following their protocol, man, because they're obviously a ZK focused blockchain on institutions and stuff like that. So and alpha wise, like if you're interested in a narrative, you should go find like the devs, the CEOs and stuff like that, find their X's on the projects that you're following or the narratives you're interested in, and like that they share so much good information on their X's
Mm-hmm.
because they'll obviously talk about their developments or they'll talk about they'll give you like good analogies of the problems that they're facing, because we can't really comprehend all these things because we're not developing. And let's face it, I
Yep.
don't know about you, man, but like when I first got into crypto, I didn't really have like a great understanding about even just basic economics.
I
You
had
know what I mean?
zero clue of what's going on, dude. I was
Exactly, man.
completely lost.
Yeah, so we don't understand basic economics. We don't understand how institutions work. We don't understand how banking works. You know what I mean? Like, so, and these guys obviously do, and they have to, because they're developing tools for the problem or the solutions for the problem. So when they share their insights, it's just like, and you can sit down and do a bit of research. And like I said again, it takes time, man, to understand these things and learn them. But it's good to share. That's why it's good to have a network and you share the information and talk about it and go, is this where we're going? Is this, is this good? Is this bad? And that's how you learn.
Yep, exactly. And I think there are quite a few things, like pretty large things coming this year that are not out yet. Are there any specific things that you are keeping an eye on?
In terms of like projects and stuff.
Projects, chains, anything actually. Like for example, we have restaking is pretty hot, right? And I think there are some protocols building on top of restaking that are either in testnet or not live yet. And of course, Berachain is coming soon. Lots of projects building on Berachain, so along those lines.
Yeah, there's a couple that I'm watching very closely that I can't say their names at the moment just because everyone would probably kill me. But it's funny when, there's like, it's funny when there's projects that are really good and that people know about it, but you don't see anyone talking about it. I think that's when you know that it's a true gem. But yeah, restaking, I'm not interested in restaking at all. Just like, and that might be stubborn of me, but I just think that that's like the Ponzi of this cycle. You know what I mean? I've seen other people say it too, but I just feel like that's, if we implode, it's going to be off the back of like the restaking narrative. But I'm pretty bullish on Cosmos at the moment, man. I feel like they've got some of the best developers over there. So I've been keeping a good
Nice.
eye on those projects over there. And I don't think that like it's had its time yet, man. So Cosmos is very interesting. I try not to be too much of a chain maxi because I spent the last cycle I was stuck on Phantom
Hey,
because
high
like,
five.
were you there as well?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was good, wasn't it?
it was, it
Like
was.
while it lasted. So Phantom was, yeah. I last cycle I turned into a maxi because I found Phantom so early from a friend, good close friend of mine. Like made a ton of money. It made a ton of money on the ecosystem plays and stuff like that. And then I became a maxi, and that whole last cycle I spent inside Phantom. Like I knew a few things that were going on outside, but mostly everything was in Phantom. And now the like past bear and this cycle, I kind of realized like how much it stunted my growth. And I like, for anyone listening that is like a maxi, I just feel like that's the absolute worst thing you can possibly do, because yeah, it makes you narrow minded. You don't see all these things going on. Like there's so much going on, and it's worth learning and getting involved in and figuring out what niches you're interested in, and then getting involved that way, because you just miss so much stuff. And this, as you're aware, the space is quite vast and it grows quite quick. So, and also your network as well, like we've spoken about how important it is, it shrinks that as well. And then you get stuck in a little cult, and it's like this little phantom cult, and it's like, yeah, it's going to the moon, and that's it. You don't know what else is going on. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're bag holding and you're on like is there anything even going on over there at the moment?
Um,
Do you
I
keep up
know
to date?
Phantom Sonic is coming out, and I think Q2, I think. Not really sure, but there are a few protocols building on Phantom Sonic. Yeah, I like how you mentioned that because I recently, like I think 2 days ago, I just had the thought of like I should start looking at Phantom again to see if there's anything going on. Like the Sonic testnet, I think is coming, or is it live already? Yeah, so not really sure what is there yet. I know Phantom Foundation recently tweeted that like those 5 projects that were kind of selected to be on Phantom Sonic or something. So yeah, have to take
It's
some time to
it's
look
pretty
into it.
interesting, hey. It's pretty interesting, like when you see like I always try to put myself in the shoes of like the devs, and like I imagine that I'm developing something, right? And obviously they would be aware of how the space is progressing and what other devs are working on and stuff like that. And I always think like if I was working on something like, I don't know, just say you're working on like a lower tier layer one and you believe in it, but like you're seeing like developments of like, say, something like CAS, which are like, and you're just like, we can't, I'd feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'd be like, I can't compete with that. Like, and I'd feel, I don't know if devs have any devs listening that would have ever felt like that, but that's how
Do
I
you,
feel like I would feel.
do you think the devs would be aware of what other people are doing, or would they be too busy in their own little circle?
I've seen a lot of guys say that before, but I mean, like, I think the good devs would be like paying attention to the space as a whole. You know what I mean? Just like the good investors are paying attention to the space as a whole. Kind of like how we were saying just then about being maxis. Like if you're like too maxi towards a specific thing, you stunt your growth. But also you could also become. I agree. I definitely agree. You could become like jack of all trades and master of none type situation.
Is that a good thing, in your opinion, or a bad thing?
Um, that's a hard question, man. I feel like that's me. I feel like I'm sort of jack of all trades, master of none.
Me too.
Yeah, but I think eventually I think it just drags your story out a bit further. Like I think eventually you'll find your niche that you like because you've experienced so many different things, and then you'll probably, hone in on that. I think that's how it works.
I guess. I mean, I'm still exploring, so I hope so. I hope it does work that way. Um, yeah, and actually, I want to talk about your strategy for 2024. Like, what's your game plan? We're kind of 3 months in now.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, man, like I work my ass off in the bear. I've been through a couple of cycles now, so I knew like this time it's funny, man. Like it's funny watching people go through what you went through. You know what I mean? Like where they get disheartened. It's their first cycle. They're in the bear. They get disheartened. They go away. Then the bull comes in. Then they come back, and you're like, "Fuck, I did that." You know what I mean? And now, like in my third cycle, I'm like, I knew in the bear, I was like, this is where you do the work, and that's where like it was quiet, man. You remember like you would have been around. Remember X? It was quiet. It
Yeah.
was Twitter. There was nothing going on. Like you'd put like coin down on a project that just launched and it would take like weeks for it to pump. Now it's just we're back in that zone now where it's heating up, it's getting crazy.
Mhm.
So for me, I was very, very fortunate, brother. I was very, very fortunate. I found CAS very early. I went in with size. So I don't, and the capital from that has allowed me to accumulate projects like Alephium early. Tau, I got in like not too early. I think like around $90 or something like that. And I've just got like solid bags and then of like some real
Nice.
gems. And yeah, man. Then I leave like, I don't know, like a small percentage of my portfolio. I even have it like public just so people know what I'm doing. Like I just try to be transparent with that stuff. Like if I'm trading shit coins, because I was thinking about this the other day, Matt. My strategy is I don't really have to do really anything, to be honest, man. It's a waiting game now. You know what I mean? You see
Your
guys say it
bags
all
are
the time.
packed.
The bags are packed, man. So like, and that's what I was saying. Like my strategy to sort of overcome FOMO and just to like be able to have skin in the game is like I leave like a certain percentage free, and I'll just trade that and play the mid to short term game because there's been some gems, man. Like, do you follow the shit as much?
Not as much recently.
Yeah. So there's like, well, I mean, you would have heard of OPSEC, right?
Yes, rings a bell.
So OPSEC like just ran from like nothing to 50, 60 mil market cap. Like Mubi was the same. Like they all
Mm-hmm.
came from Shitterland, and they met
Yeah.
printed people multiple X's. So, I'll leave a little bit of capital aside. Like I know some guys, like I'm in some very, very good Telegram groups with some absolute legends. And, I'll come in there because, I sort of like was, my whole story comes from degen. Like that's where I started. So like whenever things start to heat up, that inner degen starts to come out. Like I'm a very, very sensible investor now, but that's so like, my strategy was to deal with it was like, all right, I'll leave like 10% aside and I'll just play with this. Like I'll have some on some sexes like MEXC, Qcoin, a little bit in like Uniswap and stuff like that. And I will just trade, and that like allows me to deal with my, degen. I actually honestly recommend it to anyone who enjoys trading but also has like sensible spot bags. That, if they bought the bottom, it's a good way to deal with it. But you learn a lot too, and you meet so many new people, man. Like if I wasn't involved in trading certain projects, like every time I like join a Telegram and like I start speaking about a project, you meet heaps more people, and they're like, hey, Toom, check this out, look at this, and you learn heaps. If you're just sitting there, and you got like fat bags of Cass and Tau or whatever, and you're just sitting there like doing fuck all, you're not going to meet anyone, you're not going to learn anything, you're not going to grow. It's like nothing happens. You just sit there and you wait, and yeah, you make some money, but your experience overall is just, I don't know, it's not as fulfilling in my opinion.
Yeah, I think like you still got to punt, right? You still got to keep a little allocation,
I,
trade
I
here and
think
there,
I think so, man. Yeah, I think so. That's the whole point,
get rid of
like
those itchy fingers.
yeah, that's it, man. That's it. And that's how I deal with it. So but again, that's not, some guys that I really, really respect and I've become great friends with, that's not their style, it's not their strategy. They don't want to stress. And I respect that as well, because it can be all of those things, stressful and time consuming, and it can fuck with your dopamine and your hormones and all sorts of things. So there's a lot more negatives than probably positives, to be honest. It's gambling in the end of the day, isn't it?
Yep. And I mean, of course, you do post charts here and there, right? Looking for trades, looking at previous performances and all. I want to hear your take on the markets for 2024, right? Like we're kind of in a bull right now. We have the halving coming in like what, 2 months? ETH ETF probably coming soon, and
Yeah.
elections
When's that?
this
Is that
year.
May? Is that May
I
or?
think around there
Oh,
is like expected, but like I have no
mm.
news now. But yeah, so what's your take on markets for the next 6 months to a year?
It's hard, man. It's hard when you ask questions like this, because I think, like every situation is just so different for everyone else, because it depends like when you came into the market. It depends when you like, I could happily like exit all my positions right now and just close my laptop and walk away and come back in the next bear market. I'd be happy. You know what I mean? Whereas like for someone else, like they would be like looking at these charts for like 2024 and stuff and trying to pick entries and exits. And I try not to look at it too much. I mean, some guys have said to me, I don't know, man. Some guys say that like we're going to hit all-time high before the halving, and then afterwards, we'll probably have like a dump.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I think I know this might sound crazy to some people, but overall, I think we're going to be in an uptrend till like 2028. Overall, I think like everything will be moving. I don't think we'll have like insane like 2-3 year bear markets or something like that. I could be wrong, but that's just my thoughts. Like just looking at some market cycles.
It would be nice.
Uh, I think so. I think definitely. I think around 2029, 2030, I'm like want to be living on a fucking farm, man, like in the middle of nowhere. Like that's my plan. I think things will get pretty goblin around that time. But yeah, I think 2024 is a bullish year, man. Like, I mean, look at the charts on the high time frame, the altcoins. I don't think Bitcoin will go over like 100K. I don't think it'll go. I think it'll top out around like 90, around that, somewhere around there. And then we just have to see how the space evolves. Like it might just mature, man, all of a sudden, and then find its level, and it'll just be similar to stonks or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. To be honest, I don't really like. I try to stay present. I try not to predict too much, and I just like make my own personal targets portfolio wise. And I
Right.
try not
Okay.
to predict too much because, like you said, man, like there's so many different catalysts this year. With ETFs and halvings, and there's so many things that can happen, and I try to just focus on portfolio profit. I think that's the most important thing. Focus on profit, because in the end of the day, like you'll never be upset taking profit. That's a big one.
Got it. Got it. All right then. Let's move on to the networking and network effects that you've been
Mm.
so on about, right? Like let's hear it from you. Like, why do you think networking is so important? How should someone network in the space, right? If we are like new to the space or like just wanting to go out there and meet people.
Yeah, I think the first thing you need to do, and I don't think you necessarily need to think about this too much, but I think you actually have to provide value. Like people want to connect with someone else because they feel like they can get something from them. And that's just the skin and bones of it. Like even you like contacting me about your podcast, you might feel like it might benefit your podcast or whatever, and we both feel like we can get some mutual benefit out of it, and that's networking. And I think it's value. If you provide value, and it depends. There's so many different ways. There's so many gaps in this market at the moment. Like for people to find niches that they want to explore, and then provide that value. And then I guess it comes down to your content and execution. But it's funny, man, because like I know some guys, like I've said it heaps of times, these guys are like 20 followers and they're like in
Mm-hmm.
venture capital fucking Telegram groups, and they're entering seed rounds and stuff. So how they get
You
in there or like
get
who
me in.
yeah. Well, that's what I mean, man. Like it's interesting. It's interesting and everyone plays the game differently, man. And like it's cool. Like networking online is good, man, because like if you're an introverted person, like you don't have to go sit in a room with anyone, you don't have to go see
Yeah,
anyone. Like so there's no excuses in my opinion. You know what I mean? You can't say, oh,
yeah.
like I can't talk, like it's like
Just texting. It's all
you're
good.
just texting, man. So and also like this is another thing about life and self-improvement and all that sort of shit. If you don't know how to do it, again, it's the same thing. Just look it up, like or like read books like How to Win Friends and Influence People. You know what I mean? Like they help you with your communication with people if you're shit at it. Like I've read all these books and they've helped me heaps, and I've listened to heaps of different podcasts, and you have to study these things. Like some people, it comes naturally, but education is the key for any subject, bro. You know, I think that's probably one of the most important things is, realizing that you can educate yourself on anything. Like if you're a shit networker or if you're a shit communicator, there's actually ways to improve it, and you need to understand that and accept the challenge and look for the solutions. So that's a big thing, I guess. I don't know, man. Are you like that? Do you like, if you do you just are you someone who just goes, oh, I'm not good at that, and you just accept that you're not good at it, or are you someone who goes like, oh, like I'm crap at this, but I'm going to find a way to overcome it and get better at it?
I think it depends on if I see value in wanting to overcome that, right? Like if we're
Like if
in the
it's worth it.
space, yeah, like if we're in the space and then like, oh, I can't do this, I want to understand this, and then like it probably is gonna help me a lot in the space, then yes, I would try. But if it's like I don't know what's a good example. Let's say I'm not good at arts and craft, for example. Like I can't do origami, and then do I really want to go and spend hours doing origami? I don't think
Mm.
so. Like I'll just like, yeah,
Well,
I'm bad at that, and there's no point anyway for me to learn.
what about for something like going on a date with women and stuff like that, and you feel like that you don't know how to talk to them and stuff like that? Like, would you put time and effort into like I don't know, like researching like charisma or like how to like
Yeah, I
you,
think that that is important to me at least, right? Like
yeah, I just feel like a
it's
lot
kind
of
of part of
people
developing your character and part of I think growing up as well to learn how to manage this.
yeah, well, that's it, man. Like that's the thing is like I think a lot of people have like lost that ability to like realize that the information is out there. It's just if we're not good at something or we don't understand something, it's just education. That's all it is. So we just got to look for the answers and then apply them or like practice to apply them. So I think that's like the big thing about even networking in this space or with anything really is
Mm-hmm.
realizing that you can learn to be good at those things. And I've seen guys do it, man. They're so good at it now. I've seen people growing in the space as well, and they're like learning and adapting. So yeah, man, I think it's super important, man. Like that's the biggest thing that helped me get to where I am now. Like having my close friends, like we had like most of my what happened right with my story is I had probably like 8 or 9, maybe like 10, like very very close friends, and we were all in like a just Facebook Messenger group for like the whole last cycle,
Mm-hmm.
and we would just like teach each other stuff and share alpha And then the bear market came, and most of them like dropped off and lost motivation and family stuff going on and all that sort of stuff. And I would always like still be researching and sharing stuff in there. This is probably, I don't know, like October last year, maybe a little bit earlier, September. And like no one would ever like, converse with me about it and like, or like discuss anything. And I'm like, oh, I found this like interesting. Like, I found Casper, like, look at this Casper, it's so interesting. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it looks okay. And then so I was like, I started to get frustrated, and that's when I just like was like, well, I'm just gonna just like start writing all the shit that I'd write to these guys on X, and that's pretty much like how like Tomb started from, being a dormant account for like over a year nearly. Yeah, I just started literally just sharing all my thoughts, like because that's how I would talk to the boys in those group chats, and
Nice.
it's actually been one of the best things that's ever happened to me, man. Because like I didn't actually realize like how many people sort of like value those insights, or like I don't know, maybe it's the way I package it or whatever, but yeah, that's helped me build like an incredible network, and it's crazy, man, because some of the people that I've always looked like I've had Twitter since like 2016 or 17, and some guys that like I've watched like from when they had nothing back then to like 200,000 300,000 followers now, like even more, and they like message you and they're like, hey man, how you going, like I love your content, do you want to look at this or like have this opportunity? And I'm like, fuck, like this is crazy, man. Like these guys that I've looked up to and
Mm-hmm.
respected and watched their growth are like now just talking to me, which I find crazy, but it was all off the back of me getting angry at my best friends for not saying anything, or like
Yep.
appreciating the effort of like research I was putting in. So yeah, that's kind of like what happened, man, over the last, I think it's been like, I don't know, 6 months or something now that I've
It
been
was all
sharing stuff on Twitter.
destined. It's part of the
Yeah,
path.
yeah. It's been good, man.
Nice.
It's been fun.
Right, we've had a pretty good chat on crypto things, right? Time to get to know Toom a little bit more on the personal side, right? Could you run us
Mm.
through a day in your life of Toom?
Uh, well, at the moment, man, I I'll get up pretty early, and it's hard, man. Like I'm still adapting to like the growth of my account. It's something that I'm like struggling with. I'm feeling like that I'm waking up in the morning now. Like usually I would used to wake up and go train straight away first thing in the morning, come home, have a big breakfast, and then I would like sit down and do work. Now I'm finding like I'm waking up and I'm like checking stuff and I'm like replying to messages, and so I'm like, I don't know, contradicting everything that I just said pretty much, but I'm finding myself like getting stuck, because I got like I'm a pretty empathetic person, man, so like if someone like asks me for help like in DMs, like I'll try and help them, and I think I need to learn that like I just can't do that anymore. So I think yeah, that's usually what I'll do, man, and then like I'll sit down and do a bit of research, and I've been working on my account a lot. I've actually like been enjoying growing it. So I spend most of the days at the moment growing that and networking and building that up. And then like, in the afternoon, I'll take a break and go do some stuff. It's pretty boring at the moment. I just been traveling for 2 months, bro. So at the moment, I'm like just enjoying living a slow life. But
Where
like,
you've
yeah,
been, where you've been traveling to?
I was over in Bali for 2 weeks, and then I went to Japan for 3, and then I came back to Bali for another 2 and a
Nice.
bit after that. Yeah, it was good, man. It was real good. Went snowboarding, and yeah, I've been looking to migrate over to Bali, so I was looking at a few businesses and a few properties over there, just to mix things up for the next couple of years.
Ooh,
I've never
planning the Bali retirement home.
look, man. I honestly never thought I would go there because I know it sounds super NPC, man, but like I actually, for my lifestyle, like I actually love it over there, man. Like it's a real great music scene. Like there's heaps of like health and wellness. It's like easy to be healthy. There's so much good networking there. Like it's incredible because everyone's pretty much working abroad. So the stories that you hear and learn are just very inspiring. So, and again, it comes back to that thing of being around people, like I meet guys and I'm like, hear their story and I'm like, fuck, that's incredible. Like I want to, do stuff like that. So I get inspired. So if you, I don't know what it's like where you are at home, man, but when I come back home, it's like everyone's the same. They're doing the same shit. you know, they haven't changed for like 20 years. And I'm like, I don't want to be around these guys, because then you end up like them, you know? So yeah, I think a big thing for me would be migrating over there and, you know, focusing on, you know, a lot of online stuff. And then, yeah, probably a bit of alpha, but I'm looking at like an actual, like, little small bar business over there. So hopefully that goes through. I'll be flying back over this week to
Bar
try and,
business.
yeah, just a little bar
Nice.
cafe that I want to buy. Yeah. So hopefully that settles this week, and then I can start to move over there and work on that, and then just continue to work on crypto as well, man. If the bull market's nice to us.
Nice, nice. Awesome. And like, any hobbies you'd like to do?
Massive trainer, man. I love training. Always been big and like into my gym and stuff like that. I've got a lot of music gear. I've got a little studio at home.
Ooh,
I,
nice.
yeah,
What
I
do you play?
love pretty much everything, man, because I could never find people that had the same music taste as me. So I just was like, fuck, I'll just learn everything and make my own music. That's pretty much the path that I went down. But I've been like listening to a lot more electronic music lately and mucking around like DJing and stuff like that. We've been
Ooh,
like
nice.
through COVID. It's been fun, man. So good. Like our house here is just like when I'm researching and like, you know, doing computer work, we just got tunes pumping 24/7. So
Nice, nice.
it's just a big music house.
Sounds awesome, man. Really chill.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, man. Yeah, they're probably my two biggest hobbies, bro.
Right. We've been chatting for quite a bit now. Right, let's wrap things up
Have we?
soon.
Fuck, I
Yes,
don't
sir.
know what
It's
time.
been about an hour now.
Oh,
What's one piece of advice you would give for your younger self?
okay. Probably, I think it would be not to waste any time. I feel like I could be like a lot further ahead if I hadn't wasted time. And I think to combat wasting time is just to set goals. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people go like, oh, I don't know what I want. I don't know like what I want to do or what I want to be. Or like, I think just set something and then work towards that. And then you can't underestimate the knock-on effect of just starting something. You know, it takes you places, you meet people, you do things. Even if it changes in 2 weeks or 2 months or 3 months or a year, at least you're going forwards. I think that's probably the biggest thing for me is like, I wish I was always going forwards towards something, as opposed to like I've been a very, I guess like a little bit of a late bloomer and like a bit sensible with my approach to life. So I wish I just had a bit more a go in me a little bit earlier. But I mean, I wouldn't change the way that I've done things now. Like I feel pretty blessed as well. But that'd probably be my advice to myself.
Awesome. Nice. I mean, I'm still spending some time thinking what I want to do as well, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it's hard, man. Like I said, like I think the way I've thought about it so much, I think the best way to combat that is just to start something. You know, you're already like pretty active and you know, you're showing a lot of initiative in this space as well. So already, so I'm sure you'll work it out, man. Plus, like
I hope so.
the thing is about crypto as well, though, isn't it? It's like that's what the money gives you. It gives you freedom to make those decisions or figure those things out, doesn't it?
Yes, sir. Right then, my next question to you, what is your greatest takeaway from crypto?
Whew. What is my biggest take away from crypto? Um, that's a hard question, man. Like it's funny because like I don't know. Well, what's yours? What would yours
Man,
be?
hey, you're supposed to answer the question, not me. I haven't thought
Well,
about this.
I'm curious because it's a good question, man. Like it's a really good question, but it
Mm.
depends on what your motivation is. You know, like
Yeah, I
you
think
want.
given your the conversation I had with you the past hour, so I thought you would mention something along the lines of a social network.
Yeah, I think that's probably been the greatest thing has been like just the people, you know, meeting people, networking with people. Like I've just learnt so much and it's like every day is a lesson. Actually, that would probably be what it is, man. Just the networking, the connections. Even some of the guys that I've met, man, like, you know, like I speak to them, call them on like WhatsApp and we chat for like hours, you know, and they're legends. I could speak to them all day. That would probably be one of the best things. And I wish I could say the tech. I think tech would have to be second. It'd be like networking, investing, and then tech would be third,
Hmm. You're
unfortunately.
in it,
Uh,
not in it for the tech.
Well, you know, I reckon a lot of people say that they are, but I I don't know. It
I mean,
depends where you're from as well, man. Like, obviously, like, you know, if you were from a third world country or whatever, then you'd be like, yeah, we need this. Or like, if you're like a real decentralization maxi, I am, and I support it, and I will always support projects that are like full max decentralization
mhm.
because like I hate governments, I hate the system. You know, that's what I was saying to you before. Like, I would love to live on a farm, like away from everything. So I'm a huge advocate for it, but I don't know. I think most people are here for the money, if I'm going to be
Yeah.
brutally honest.
Yeah, we are here for the money. I'm pretty sure that's like 99% of us.
Paper hand cheats.
All right then. Thanks for taking the time to answer the questions, right? One final question before we go off. That would be, could you give me guest nominations to come on the pod in future?
Yeah, I think if I could suggest a few guys, I reckon there's a few interesting characters in this space, man. There's some really, really interesting guys. I would recommend El Dragon. Do you know El Dragon?
I unfortunately do not.
I will DM you his ex. I think he would be an interesting character. I would
Mm-hmm.
love for Phoenix Gems to get on here. Who else? One more. And do you know who would be a really interesting character? Either I don't know if you get him on here or not. Like Sleuth would be interesting, or maybe
Sleuth.
like yeah, McSleuth or Mister Colonel Roy Mustang. He would be an interesting character to have on. That's probably like the most left curve answers you'll get. But I would love for you to get Phoenix on if you can. I can
Nice.
try and convince him for you.
Could you describe each one of them? Like, what are they generally, the style, or
Actually,
what are they known for?
maybe I don't even know how to pronounce Jesse's last name. Is it Woda? Woda? Jesse Woda? I don't know.
I don't know,
I
man.
honestly don't. I don't honestly don't know how to pronounce his last name. He would be amazing to have on as well because he's like very like so smart in crypto, but like he hates it at the same time. It's like the craziest thing. And I get where he's coming from. He's like, you should be out enjoying life and like running around and doing stuff and just invest and just chill. And then, you know, I always read it and I'm like, fuck, he's right. You know, like, don't need to be here like 24/7 watching charts. And then Phoenix is like just become like he was like one of my mentors pretty much like silently back
Mm.
in the day. I used to respect him so much just because he just had a very balanced approach towards everything. And then yeah, Sleuth I just find like fascinating. He's just an interesting dude. Just sort of came out of nowhere. I don't know if he's an alt account or what, but I found him to be pretty interesting. He finds like he's a good really really good researcher. He finds a lot of good gems early. Yeah, they're all good guys, man. There's so many good people in this space, dude. Like infinite.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
a lot of goblins, but also a lot of good people too.
Yeah, yeah. I think we try to get our exposure to as much of these good people as we can and limit the bad ones.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing about everything being online, isn't it? You know, like people can just say whatever they want and do whatever they want, and there's no repercussions. You know, this place would be like a completely different place if it was like if we were in a big room together. You know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Before we go off, is there anything else you want to talk about or cover that we might not have touched on yet?
No, man, I don't think so. I just really appreciate you reaching out to me and asking me to jump on. Like we've been talking about it for so long. I wasn't sure what to expect really because I've never really done this before. So and I'm
Oh,
like someone who like I need to like sit down. Like you know when I'm like writing a thread, man, I'll like sit down for like hours and just like reread it and try to articulate. I don't
mm-hmm.
rewrite it too much, but I just kind of like look over it a lot. So when I'm talking, you know, I can't I can't
You
edit
can't
and
reread
stuff.
it.
So yeah, I can't reread it. So,
Well, I hope
but
your
no,
experience has been a good one.
yeah, man. Sorry if I just rambled on, but yeah, hopefully someone somewhere can learn something from this conversation.
For sure, for sure. I'm sure there will be many people.
But yeah, Moose, I really appreciate you having me on, man. And yeah, we should do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. We could do, I don't know, maybe like a first half 2024 review when June comes or something, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and see if our predictions came true.
Exactly. All right. All right then. With that, let's thank Toom for coming on to this episode. Right. Definitely check out his Twitter. Right. I'll link it down below. And if you see, he actually has I think it's your own little community, right, in your bio, on your Twitter bio. So
Yeah, it's a little common ground experiment.
Yeah, cool. So
Like,
joining that, I guess, I can get to speak with Toom to exchange ideas,
yeah.
and I think some people are in there as well. Yeah, I think that's it for this episode. We will see you in the next episode.
Thanks, Moose.
That brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Before you go, do remember to give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so you never miss a thing. Comment down below what you liked about this episode, who you like me to interview next, or any topics that you want to learn more about. Until next time, this is Moose moving out.